Howdy, Earthlings! If you've been aging on the blue marble for the past 3 decades, like I have, you were around for the discourse surrounding whether Digimon or Pokemon was better. They both came out around the same time on much different scales. Digimon started as a modest watch virtual pet toy, like the humble Tamagotchi, and they made them basically Tamagotchi who fight.
Digimon! Prepare to Digimon, the original digital monster. How well you train him determines the monster you get.
Yeah.
Train him to shadow box, to battle.
Yeah.
And when you've taught him enough,
Prepare to Digimon!
challenge another Digimon. And if you've taught your monster well, he'll be victorious.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to Digimon? Digimon, each sold separately from Bandai.
It was a way to take a crack at the male market because Tamagotchi was mostly bought by young girls.
Well, if it isn't Tamagotchi, her new favorite pet.
Yes!
So what's that make me, fish sticks?
Oh, are you hungry?
Oh, no. By all means, feed it. Play till your heart's content.
Look, Goldie! I took good care of her, and she changed again.
Change? How about changing some water here?
Katie, bus is here!
So Tamagotchi can pause. I can pause too. Want to see that again?
Hatch a Tamagotchi, the one and only, from Bandai, each sold separately.
This was just the start of it though. Pokemon came out of the gate sprinting. Games, anime, toys, and cards all came out very close together. Pokemon knew they had what it takes to get the attention of the child media ingesters market. For digital monsters, they didn't receive an anime until 2 years after the release of the virtual pet line. Once both came over to the US, again, Pokemon first, but they were close enough together that there was a bit of competition going on. As an amoeba, I was into both until it came time to pick one or the other. I was poor and could only choose one side to back. I chose Pokemon, and as an adult, I played Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, and I realized I was sleeping on Digimon. I backed the more popular horse, the one with the lowest payout because everyone knew they were going to win the race. Pokemon. I think Digimon is probably the better series now, and had I backed this one, I think the payout personally would have been better for my specific tastes. But I think there's a bit of an issue with the debate of Pokemon versus Digimon, and that's that these two were never really on the same level. These two were never really competing. Pokemon had a massive release plan, and if it wasn't the most popular media franchise ever, they were willing to shove more and more money into it until it was. See, even if Pokemon didn't catch on, they had so much merch that one could easily be convinced that the series was already popular. Digimon's releases were a lot more spaced out in the beginning, and it really seems like Bandai never really knew what they were doing with Digimon. Comparing the two series at this stage, in the early stages, was like comparing Walmart to the local grocery store. Pokemon was like an industry plant of popularity. They came in and acted like they already owned the place, like they were already famous, and everyone just accepted it. No one could accuse Digimon of that. While they did copy a lot of stuff from Pokemon, they mostly just did their own thing. And every way that they were similar, they were also equally different. I think that if they were ever on the same level, that people would still back Pokemon. But I think that's because, to a certain extent, Pokemon panders to people. The biggest change to the Pokemon core titles, after all, is running at a slideshow pace and chandelier hats. Anytime they broke from their mold, they made a spin-off with just a few releases, never daring to mess too much with the formula of new game, 8 badges, 100 new Pokemon for very long. But if you look at the history of Digimon games, you have this more adventurous feel, each game being very different from the last. Digimon never had its core series outside of the V-Pet line. I think in a sense that should at least garner a bit of respect. They didn't pander. They made different games each time, and while it sucks that each Digimon world plays different than the last, it's also nice that they didn't pump out the same thing year after year. That Digimon has lasted this long, despite being thought of as the underdog, is kind of amazing. But yeah, I think the biggest issue between these two franchises is that Bandai is a fucking coward. Sorry, but they were never on the same level. In the early days of Digimon, I never heard of the video games and I didn't catch the anime often, but I always made sure to get the V-Pet line. I had the second and third generations. I loved this toy line so much that I was actually kind of difficult to buy for, for gifts and stuff. You have no idea how many times a family member has re-gifted me the same Digivice. I still love these toys today. Fast forward to today, and now new Digivices can only be bought through Bandai's premium service. It's like they don't want the toys to succeed. Every so often they'll release a new one and put it up in a pre-order window and then send them out. I don't think they make extras, so if you miss this pre-order window, you kinda just miss out entirely. If they do have extras, it's usually because the Digivice is double the price or a particularly successful launch like the V-Bracelet line. I think this is why people make the joke that the only thing worse than death is if Bandai becomes in charge of your favorite piece of media. Pokemon never really has this issue besides Pokemon Center releases. I can walk into any store and buy a cart full of Pokemon merch and I wouldn't have any doubles. Digimon also never really had a successful card game in the early days. They did have one, but it didn't last long. Only 2 years. Then again in 2004, that lasted only a year. Then again in 2014, and that one didn't even make it a full year. Then fast forward to the Corvid years of 2020, and we get a new Digimon card game. Bandai has never been good at card releases for Digimon. They all had easily avoidable flaws. The first one was overly complicated. The second one had supply issues and was based on a movie that Americans didn't get. And the third one was based on Digimon Fusion and only existed as a promotional tie-in to promote the series. Most people would give up after 3 failures, but not Bandai. But Bandai set a trend, and it was a trend of bad card game releases. The game now is great, and its success is more in spite of Bandai, because Bandai is so smart that they released a card game in the middle of a pandemic when people aren't able to be in person to play it. It's a wonder that it's even successful with how bad of a launch it had. You had to play it over webcams because the game called Digital Monsters didn't have a digital version of their card game. They should just call it Physical Monsters. Physimon. They only had a tutorial app, and they still don't have a digital version of the game 4 years later. This is the only thing keeping me from playing the game, as physical isn't really an option here. In the early days of the release, the card game had huge supply issues. You couldn't find them anywhere, and if you did, the shelf was empty. My Walmart didn't have the first set on their shelves until the 3rd set came out. Now the game is so far into release that I'm honestly too scared to start learning because of learning curves. My local card shop to this day still doesn't stock Digimon cards. I'm not big on figurines or action figures, so I won't speak much on those other than there are more Bakugan, Beyblade, and Pokemon toys than Digimon because there just straight up aren't any Digimon toys in my stores at all. So we have cards, but no app, games that don't have a core design philosophy, no toys outside of online orders, which online shopping is the worst way to shop, expensive V-Pet releases, small batch releases. The only thing going for Digimon is the anime. And Ghost Game is awesome. Watch it, seriously. Just go watch it just for Gamamon. Anyway, this is my entire point. Bandai hates its fans, and they lost the first half of the game, and now they've decided that they're not even going to try in the second half. They're being overly safe, like they do with Tamagotchi. They focus on the original version re-releases in different colors for their V-Pets, for the Digimon V-Pets. Because a 30-something like me will come along, see it, notice it's only $20, and impulse buy it. But unlike Tamagotchi, we don't get new releases in our stores. I was able to get new Tamagotchi releases in Target. Not even the very successful V-bracelets are on store shelves here. It's like Bandai doesn't even want our money. But here with Pokemon, we could easily drown in merch. I think the point here is that from the beginning, Pokemon always took themselves a lot more seriously. They knew they were going to be the next big thing, and they acted like it. Digimon was the underdog, and they never left that mindset. They never took themselves seriously. So to compare these two and say one is better than the other is silly because they were never competing. Not really, at least. Just a bunch of schoolyard kids creating a rivalry that didn't exist because the parental units wouldn't let us get both toy lines. It was never a contest. Pokemon walked Gatomon into an alley and broke her legs with a baseball bat. Digimon never really had a chance, and I don't think they will ever have one as long as Bandai is in charge. Now would be the perfect time for a resurgence. People are experiencing high levels of franchise fatigue with Pokemon, and all Digimon would have to do is pander to its audience for once. Give us what we want. Give us a Digimon game series that has a consistent theme. Give the card game a digital version, and release a V-Pet line that's actually available in physical stores. Maybe make a Digivolution line or two that actually makes sense. But if not for the card game and the anime, this series would have gone on decline until it slowly disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. Like, Bandai, I get that it's very easy to rely on Dragon Ball and From Software games, but if you don't do anything with Digimon, then you're killing it. This shouldn't be a series only for collectors, but for the people at home, yeah, Pokemon is better, but it was never a contest. I'm just going to say it. Pokemon is better is an incredibly safe opinion to have. There are certainly things that both do better. I'm not saying only Digimon lover opinions are valid. I'm just saying your opinion might have been paid for by the Pokemon Company. Are you sure Pokemon is better? Or is it that you haven't given any other monster catcher a try? Thanks for watching, and thanks to the supporters on Patreon, members, and supers. They make my live streams ad-free and support lukewarm takes like this. So thanks again to Firework Penguin, Momentary Unicorn, Aurora the Puppy Moth, Sly, Nat, Selena, Marius Yini, Worm Syrup, Rask, Ver, Beeve, Bait, Sly again, Colorado Blue, Vader Son, Linky, Molding Bricks, Blackjack, and Fusoku. I'll see you all later. I'm still sick, and I'm trying to focus on not dying.